Hello and welcome to the Aegex webinar. Today we are featuring our partner TAAP, and we will be hearing from Tony Leach, who is the Business Development Director at TAAP, where he's responsible for the company's partner program. Tony seeks to work with partners who recommend and co-sell TAAP solutions. For the previous 11 years before joining TAAP, Tony has worked with both Microsoft and Oracle and had responsibility for running sales teams that were focused on selling both technology and application solutions. He's joined by Angela Walker, who is a TAAP Forms evangelist at the company, and she can answer any questions about converting paper forms into digital processes with TAAP services. Before we get started, I would like to point everyone's attention to your control panel that should be on the right side of your screen. You'll see a section there that says questions. Following Tony and Angela's presentation, we will have time to answer a few of your questions. So during the webinar, if you do have a question, please type it in and submit it, and then I will be able to direct those questions to our presenters at the end. Also during the presentation, there will be several poll questions that will pop up on your screen. Please just quickly read and answer those yes or no questions and submit them. And then following the presentation, you will notice there's also a handout, and that handout is this TAAP presentation that you can feel free to download and refer to later on. So without further ado, here is Tony Leach.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Lee, and good morning and good afternoon to everyone on the webinar. Obviously, there's a number of people from different geographies, so trust you've had a good day, or you will have a good day. As Lee's kind of introduced myself, I'm Business Development Director at TAAP, and it's with pleasure that I can go through a presentation in terms of how we are digitising organisations' business. And obviously the key aspect for the audience today is that many of our customers are actually collecting data and information in hazardous locations using pieces of paper, which obviously you can't do anything much with other than retype it in or whatever. And essentially what we're offering with a partnership with Aegex is ability to actually capture that information at source, up an oil rig, in a refinery, wherever you have a requirement for an intrinsically safe solution. Angela's kindly on the call as well with me. Lee's obviously introduced Angela, and when we get into a bit more, well, how do you actually do it, I'll hand over to Angela to cover some of those aspects. And obviously feel free to put questions into the chat window, and we'll get to the point where we can answer those later on during the presentation. So thank you very much indeed. And I'll now go through in terms of how we're really working with organisations globally in digitising their processes, enabling them to make better decisions based on information that's actually collected as they do that from moving from paper to digital. So in terms of what do we actually do, we've been doing this for a number of years now. We're a UK software vendor based just outside London, and we've been very much involved in mobile applications and business processes and delivering solutions over that for a number of years. The specialization that we bring into this particular area is that we offer multilingual, so we have customers who are running our software in both English and Japanese, for example, and also English and Welsh as another example. And we also enable people to collect data and information using our forms technology on Aegex tablets. We offer that facility whether people are working online or offline. This is particularly important when we're in a hazardous area because, of course, commonly you don't necessarily have a good Wi-Fi or a 4G connection, or you can't have a Wi-Fi or a 4G connection for the obvious reasons. So we're able to collect information and data, and then when we are connected back up to a particular Wi-Fi or a 4G signal somewhere where it's safe to do so, we can then send that information through, and that information then can be analysed, etc. So online and offline, multilingual. In terms of specialism, we've clearly got a Windows specialism most of our partners are actually working on a Windows devices. We get one or two now who are asking, and this is outside clearly of the intrinsically safe area, who are asking for other platforms, and we're also providing web applications as well on devices such as the Aegex tablet, etc. But our heritage is very much around Windows, etc. Other key aspect of our applications is that we develop these and deploy them in a matter of days, not weeks and weeks and weeks. This is particularly apposite since when I used to work for Oracle, involved with Oracle applications, the projects that we were doing were of such scale that you'd be lucky if you got an ROI in over a year, and it would take in the order of a year or so to implement something. You know, in terms of what we're doing, we're implementing this solution in days, and therefore the ROI is pretty compelling. And what we tend to find is that when we've started an implementation on one particular process, for example, we very rapidly get asked to digitize other processes, look at workflow, which is again something that we support, look at providing a portal as a management reporting engine to show the number of inspections, for example, that are being conducted, etc. So we're very key on actually implementing quickly, and we can go into a bit of detail around that when Angela can help me out. We have a very, very strong relationship with Microsoft. We're a Microsoft managed ISV out of the UK, and we're a member of the Microsoft Partner Advisory Council, and I attend that every quarter. We have great support from Microsoft, and we have great support in terms of the technology that we use to underpin the solution, and we also have great support from a co-selling angle as well. So that's a little bit about who we are and essentially what we're doing. So going into a little bit more detail, what our software does, and it isn't unique to the intrinsically safe area or the hazardous area, it basically enables any organization that is, if you consider a process that they're undertaking where they would write that process on a piece of paper or they would use a clipboard, etc., then we basically take that process and we digitize it. The interesting angle is if you start looking for paper and clipboards, they're everywhere. I was lucky enough to be on a skiing holiday last week, and of course the people on the bus to make sure that we're going to the right resort were wandering up and down the coach and wandering around the airport and wandering around the ski resort with pieces of paper. So paper is very much in our life, and it's part of intrinsically, so to speak, part of the way that a lot of organizations collect information, even this so-called digital age. So if you consider processes that your customers, you may be doing yourselves, but customers yourselves are doing in terms of whether it's things like inspecting plant and machinery, any asset that requires some inspection, anything that requires something to be done for a compliance, and that compliance needs an audit trail so that you can prove that somebody inspected that at that point in time, and also that was the GPS location that somebody did that particular inspection. Those style of processes are very common that our customers are already using the TAAP software to do. You're only really limited by your own imagination in terms of what we can actually digitize. So essentially anybody that is actually taking information, writing it down at the moment, and putting it on some form of paper can obviously avail themselves of our solution, which digitizes that, sends that information into Microsoft Azure, and at that point we can then start using tools such as Power BI to analyze that information. And clearly if you have a real-time link, which you may not have, as we discussed in the previous slide, if you have a real-time link or even a non-real-time link, but as real-time as you can get when you connect, you're enabled to have a stream of information that you can analyze in real time and monitor KPIs and monitor things on a Power BI dashboard that Microsoft can provide, for example. So it's really around any process we can actually digitize this. Obviously in the intrinsically safe area there's many people who are still writing things on pieces of paper because you can't actually, until Aegex arrives so to speak, you can't actually cost effectively have a device on the top of an oil rig or in a refinery. And obviously the combination of the Aegex tablet and our software means you can actually collect information in those hazardous environments. So a picture on the left, it isn't obviously up an oil rig or in a refinery because the paper would have been blown away. Clearly this is somebody's desktop, and essentially what we're doing is taking all paper-based processes where they are and actually putting those into a form on a tablet device, obviously, and then providing that information up to, I mentioned, Microsoft Azure. We have plugins as well that enable you to take information that is potentially linked to the inspection that you're particularly running. So as an example, we have people that are using our software to inspect vehicles, not necessarily hazardous vehicles, but inspecting vehicles, and they have a Lego brick essentially that pulls in information around has that car been stolen, and in the UK that is called a HPI check. So we have various plugins that enable you to do things like postcode lookup, vehicle check information vis-a-vis the has that vehicle been stolen, etc. So essentially what we're doing is having a platform that's very, very configurable, and will take the workflow that you're already using and configure that and deploy it very, very quickly. I mentioned the fact that we obviously do work with Power BI. That's one of the key areas that organizations are looking for, but clearly the wealth of devices that are Windows 10 compliant, obviously Aegex tablet in the intrinsically safe area means that one can do things like Windows Hello. You know, you look at the Aegex tablet and it enables you then to log in without you typing any passwords, etc. So we're big fans of Microsoft, and we use a lot of the technology that they have as part of the solution. The parts of the solution around Power BI and some of the other Azure services around machine learning, etc. Those particular services we can deliver, but as we come on to talk about how we'd like to work with partners, it's something that whilst we're asked to deliver, we're increasingly looking to partners to assist us in actually providing that solution. So what we actually do, there's a few examples here, is essentially take a paper-based process. So the way that we actually work is to say to organizations, before we've met them even, could you please send us an example of the type of information you are collecting on paper at the moment? And what we do is we then digitize that and put it on something like the Aegex tablet, for example, and use that as the first point in our demonstration. So we're actually demonstrating the process that we've already been given. And from a demonstration perspective, we can take a paper-based form and put that on Aegex tablet very, very quickly in order for us to actually go ahead and provide that demonstration to a customer. And I'd just like Angela, if she wouldn't mind chipping in, because Angela's obviously our evangelist in this area, as previously been billed, and Angela does a lot of the work with myself and the rest of the team in actually taking some of that paper-based process and digitizing for us for a demonstration. So Angela, if you wouldn't mind just commenting on you know, how quickly you can put these sorts of things together, and what are the sort of the snazzy controls. We've actually got pictures there at the bottom screen of spot marking on a picture, and we can take a picture of an asset and spot mark it. But I think it'd be helpful if you wouldn't mind explaining to the audience sort of what you actually do when I say, Angela, can you help me please?
Yes, hi Tony, and thank you very much. I hope you can all hear me. It would probably take, I can give you an estimate of probably between 1 or 2 days to digitize a form for a demo, for example. So not very long at all. I think one of them that you showed on that screen before was the one that we actually did for Aegex themselves, which involved a hot work permit and so on, so that they could go through a process of making sure that the relevant process has been followed, the precautions taken, the checklist, etc., etc. You can take photos on the device, so you don't have to take a photograph and then attach it to, say, an email later, like a lot of companies will do. They'll fill in a paper form, scan it in, take a separate photograph, then they'll create an email and have to make different attachments, which obviously takes time and so on. You've got a screenshot there as well of the annotation control, which is the one you were talking about with the spot markers. Those spot markers can represent anything in particular. With the cars, we get a lot of things like minor dents, scratches, you know, windscreen cracks, etc. But you can have anything listed on there. So you could have, you know, this valve is broken, this whatever it is needs replacing, something needs an urgent repair, etc., etc. And those will come through from that control on the app into your report that's generated at the end. So you will still see a whole report that comes out at the end of the app, and that will be the information that you've probably been used to filling in on paper, but it will contain all of those extra, rich data such as photos, signatures, annotation. You can do things like time stamping, so you can say, when did you do this? Click a button that says now, and it will just automatically stamp that for you, so you can tell that someone has done that process at a particular time on a particular day. They've signed for it, so things are validated and verified, and they're done electronically, so you don't have to go back and check them. You can always read the handwriting, obviously, because you won't be handwriting in the system, so everything will be a uniform text and so on and so forth. And then once you've done all that, that is created as one form, and you don't have to go and do any other attachments. It can be sent into various databases at the back end, so all of that data can then be used. As soon as you've got that connection and you send that back, then you can do whatever you need to with that data, and that data becomes something that you can base important critical decisions on. So, does this need doing now? Right, it does. Okay, let's act on that. And as you were talking about Power BI earlier, that will enable you to create various dashboards and so on from your data, so that you can recognize trends over a period of time. Why is this particular piece of machinery always failing? Why have we got a valve that is constantly being replaced every 2 months, and so on. So that data becomes extremely useful. And unless you are doing that with paper, you're collating all that information, every day, every week, or in some cases, companies will just store it in a storeroom, so it's available, when they might need to refer back to it, but they don't do anything with it. Then that digital information becomes incredibly important to the way you run your organisation.
Yes, thanks very much indeed, Angela. And picking up on that very salient point, we have a lot of organisations who are looking at trend analysis across the types of asset that they're essentially checking. So they're able to look at depot A versus the performance in depot B versus depot C, etc., because they're collecting this information and then analysing it, and they can actually look at where am I compliant, where am I not compliant, what issues I have with certain assets being checked in this particular geography versus that particular geography, etc. So thanks very much indeed for that. I hope to give you a bit of an insight in terms of how quickly we can move in terms of setting up a demonstration. So why do people buy? I think we've sort of covered the fact that it's very rapid. So organisations, we just, to be honest, blow their minds on the basis of we come in, provide a demonstration, as Angela has explained, and we very rapidly move on to a proof of concept. And also, it's very easy to integrate using our API that sits in Microsoft Azure. It's very easy to integrate that with any other system, whether it be an SAP backend, for example, or a Microsoft Dynamics CRM system, etc. What we also do is we help, or Angela helps, customers and partners, and this is a key thing because I think there's a lot of partners clearly on this call. We help partners and customers create their own forms as well. So it's not something that we sort of hold to our chest and won't actually let people get involved with. No, you've always got to come to TAAP to do it. We assist customers and partners in actually creating their own forms, etc. I think we've talked about the reporting and decision making, and obviously with the quick implementation, the return on investment is really good, and that's really backed up by with a very simple licensing structure, which is based on effectively a pay user per month type approach. And then when you get to a certain number of users, you have a site license again, which is an annual cost. So again, organisations are very used to the whole software as a service angle, and that's where we price it on that basis. What I'd like to do, as we've got obviously a lot of partners, Aegex partners on the call, is just talk about how we'd like to work with you guys, or potentially, hopefully you might like to work with us as well. But where we think we have an opportunity, and this is borne out by a number of partners that we're already working with, is around money for you and also opportunities. We are bringing opportunities to the partners that we're working with at the moment, and it enables organisations to basically get additional revenue streams and make more money in terms of reselling or working with TAAP as part, and including TAAP and obviously Aegex as part of the solution. So you've seen this slide before. The key emphasis on this slide is what we've talked about in terms of implementing these solutions and how we actually support our customers and how we train them to use that. This could be yourselves as Aegex partners working with us to actually provide a complete solution to your particular customers with the Aegex tablet and our software on it, and you get services revenue from being able to provide the complete solution and configuring and implementing TAAP. So that's one thing that we're working with organisations, partners on at the moment, and we'd be keen to continue the dialogue with you folks on the call. The other area is that a lot of the partners that we're working with already have skills in certain areas, and they see this as a way of enabling them to provide more value to their own customers, whether it be at the top left around other cloud services that are in Azure, on the basis that this information goes into Azure. So if you want to start doing things like Azure machine learning and predictive analytics, looking at trends and patterns and predicting, well, if I've got a failure rate on that particular asset, I need to do something about it now because it might affect that particular component in other assets globally. That style of analytics, we have some partners we're working with who provide that, and it may be some of you guys on the call would really see that as something that you could actually add value back to your own organisations that you're dealing with. Obviously, the dashboarding, which is the bottom left that we went through. Bottom right, we've also got the integration with other organisations, back-end processes or whatever. So again, there's integration services that you could derive revenue from, and obviously things around the core business processes in your customers, and again wrapping the whole thing with the Aegex tablet into a complete solution that you can provide to your customers. So running our software on the Aegex tablet provides you with the ability to wrap in a whole range of other services, as we talked through. And again, if you're designing these forms, you can retain the intellectual property around the specialist value you bring to some of these forms. As an example, we have one customer who's interested in becoming a partner, who have something in the region of 2,000 or so questions on their forms. So some of these can be very complicated. Clearly, if you're looking at an asset such as a refinery that you're doing an inspection on, or are required to run compliance checks. So there's an opportunity there for services around that, and I think we've sort of beaten this one to death, so to speak, but it's very quick, so it monetizes quickly for you. You know, the systems that we're developing go in very, very quickly, and of course, if you wanted to resell the TAAP software, it gives you an annuity stream as well. So the bottom line is, we've given a very good talk about, I hope, about what it is, who we are, etc. These are just some of the organisations that are using our software. Some of these hopefully you recognise as household names. Tesco, for example, are the biggest grocer in the UK and a massive global grocer. They're using our software for compliance checks for all their assets in their stores. Intertek, as you may know, do work for BP, Shell, etc., and they provide inspection services for oil rigs, refineries, those style of assets. They've been using our software for a large number of years, and they've been effectively rolled out about 2,000 applications in the last couple of years. So they're a big user for us. We also do charitable donation on the basis of the Royal National Lifeboat Institute and Shelter in the UK. They use our software to actually sign people up as donors and automatically take payments from the credit cards in real time, so to speak, to sign them up as donors. The RAC and the AA are UK organisations that offer breakdown services and car inspections. So if you buy a second-hand car, they've checked it and it's got 4 wheels on it and the tyres are okay. They use our software for actually looking at that asset, checking the asset, sending the information back, and the RSC and the AA analyse that information to understand, is there a type of car that is commonly coming up with a type of defect, and is that a geography issue or is that a car issue? So range of organisations that we're more than happy to discuss with you in more detail, but just wanted to give you the idea that we have customers who are household names who are using our software on a daily basis. I won't go through these in detail because you can download the pack that we've obviously put online, but there's a bit of detail there about Intertech, who are actually using our software that I've just mentioned. Another health and safety compliance audit organisation who does work for TUI, which is a German Anglo or Anglo-German tour operator. So they inspect all the hotels, again using our software. I've already mentioned Tesco's from a store perspective. We have also a big contract with Tesco's where they're using our software to automate the process of giving food to charity. So this is a big corporate social responsibility project that is taking place in the UK and I guess other countries. But just to give you a flavour that, excuse the pun in terms of food surplus and flavour, but give you a flavour of some of the other applications. And then finally, we have an organisation in the UK that, as the name, again, what it does, what they do, it says on the tin, UK Road Tanker Inspection Limited, who obviously inspect road tankers. And again, another TAAP customer. So I wanted to provide you with just a flavour of those. So just before the questions, I'd just like to sort of summarise and say we very much welcome further dialogue with you. And if you have a particular process that you're aware of that's manual, on paper, written on a clipboard, then please do send it to Angela and myself. My name and email address is on the slide deck, because we're very keen to say, well, let's have a look at it, let's see how we can digitize it for you, and have a discussion how we could then actually present that as a part of a demonstration or whatever to a prospect or an end user, or indeed if it's within your own organization. So we're very keen to identify those with you and see what we can do in terms of digitizing that. So please send us any copies of paper forms, etc. And again, very much appreciate your time on the call. We'll open it to questions, but for those of you that may be in Rotterdam and or Atlanta, we will be appearing in both locations at those Aegex events. So look forward to talking to you then, and obviously having further dialogue as appropriate. So I'll hand back to Lee for any questions. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Tony and Angela. If you do have a question, please type it into the questions section here on your control panel. I'll just address one question. Can TAAP forms be used offline?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. Sorry if I didn't explain it correctly enough when I was going through the start of the presentation. So one of the uniques of what we offer is the ability to collect information offline, and then the information being, as it were, piped up to Azure, or where, you know, in terms of the next step of the process when you have a connection. So for example, one of the organizations that was on that slide operate in China, and they are doing things like, I guess, checking refineries in China. There is no 4G or 3G signal, there is no Wi-Fi, so they're basically collecting information as they inspect that refinery, and then when they get back to base or where they get back to a connection, once they've connected, that information is then sent. So yeah, absolutely, we work offline.
Great. And then can TAAP integrate with non-Microsoft systems? Or
yes, we can.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we can. We have a product that is called TAAP Connect, and TAAP Connect is an API that actually is essentially, I think it's about 25 to 30 lines of code, and that enables us to integrate with or with systems such as SAP, etc. So we've got a lot of customers who are using non-Microsoft components, you know, whether it be SAP in the back end, etc., that we can connect to and integrate with.
Great, and that's all we'll do for now, but I thank you both for doing the presentation, and we thank you attendees for joining us. There will be a survey that you'll receive following this webinar, so please do answer that so we can get your feedback. And again, like Tony said, he will be present at our upcoming March 30th event at the CIC Rotterdam, which you have all seen advertising about. So if you are in the area, please do join us then. And also, please be in touch with Tony or Angela at TAAP to talk about digitizing your processes. So thank you all very much. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.